Britain's Home Secretary has just been exposed at the centre of what looks like the biggest political cover-up since Partygate. This one involves hundreds of thousands of pounds in unreported cash, leaked emails that read like a conspiracy thriller, and a network that leads straight into the heart of the Prime Minister's closest circle. I've got documents that act like smoking guns showing they knew, they organized it, and they lied about it for years. If this doesn't make you furious, double-check your pulse. Subscribe now, because this story is about to blow up across every British news desk and you're getting the full breakdown before the rest of them. Here's the part they wanted kept quiet. Shabana Mahmood, the woman now charged with Britain's law and order, allegedly played a central role in concealing a huge political donation. We're not talking about a one-off bookkeeping error. We're talking about roughly £700,000 that vanished from election filings for 3 full years, not a few days, not an awkward week, but a deliberate, multi-year erasure. The cash was channeled into Labour Together, a little-known outfit run by Morgan Mwini, who serves as the Prime Minister's chief of staff and political fixer. This wasn't a backroom swap between low-level operatives. This was an off-the-books funding operation run from the core of the leadership team, while the future head of policing in Britain helped cover it up. And the evidence is explosive. Leaked emails from February 2021 show that Mahmood and Steve Reid, now the minister in charge of electoral law, were aware that donations were being intentionally hidden from regulators. This wasn't lost paperwork or an overburdened intern's mistake. The phrasing in those messages points to deliberate concealment. Why would senior figures risk everything on such a scheme? According to Gerald Shamash, a senior lawyer previously advising Labour, the motive was to shield a major donor, Trevor Chin, a Jewish venture capitalist, from a wave of anti-Semitic abuse that was sweeping parts of the party during the Corbyn era. In short, while parts of the party were being accused of anti-Semitic rhetoric, elements around Starmer's camp were allegedly orchestrating financial secrecy to protect wealthy backers. Let me lay out how ugly this looks. The person now responsible for the country's police forces and national security agencies was implicated in coordinated deception over political donations. The person now drafting the rules around electoral fairness was allegedly involved in hiding donations from exactly the authorities he now oversees. And the Prime Minister's chief of staff was allegedly running the whole operation behind the scenes. This is not a clerical slip, it's a pattern of behavior at the top of one of Britain's major parties. They believed it was buried. They were wrong. Labour Together was not just a policy shop. It was a political weapon, the engine that helped undermine Jeremy Corbyn and pave the way for Keir Starmer. Founded during the fight against Corbyn's hard-left surge, this group pulled in millions from wealthy business figures who feared Corbyn's plans for nationalisation and high taxation. Put the timeline together and the hypocrisy is obvious. Between 2015 and 2019, while Corbyn campaigned on openness and railed against elite influence, Starmer's allies were quietly assembling a secret war chest funded by the very elites Corbyn condemned. They publicly aligned themselves with populist rhetoric while privately taking establishment cash to defeat it. When the receipts started to get hot, and questions were raised about the origin and reporting of the funds, the response was simple: stop reporting. From December 2017, Labour Together stopped filing returns with the Electoral Commission, no transparency, no accountability. For 3 years, roughly £700,000 disappeared as if it never existed. The facade only started to crack when Starmer took leadership in 2020. Suddenly, with their political project fulfilled, the group declared the donations. They were fined a relatively modest £14,250 for over 20 breaches and called it human error. Human error that persisted for 3 years, involving people who would go on to hold senior government office. Human error that conveniently shielded a large donor during a period of intense concern about anti-Semitism in the party. But then Gerald Shamash's leaked email landed and dismantled that excuse. Shamash is not a junior official, he's a seasoned party lawyer with decades of experience handling political disputes. When a lawyer of that standing writes something, he chooses his words carefully. In February 2021 he made clear the directors of Labour Together were not simply incompetent, they were trying to balance a public face of transparency with a private plan to protect a donor from potential anti-Semitic backlash. That language reads like intent, not accident. It suggests senior operatives weighed up the legal risks and decided to hide the money rather than expose their donor to abuse. Predictably, the opposition smells opportunity. The shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, is demanding answers, calling for police inquiries, and asking the obvious, terrifying question: how can we trust Shabana Mahmood to oversee law enforcement if she may have been complicit in breaking electoral law herself? He's accusing the Home Secretary of deliberate deception of electoral regulators, and points to the leaked correspondence as corroboration. Conservatives are pushing for the Electoral Commission to reopen its probe and to refer matters to the police. Consider the ramifications. If what's alleged is true, the most senior official responsible for policing in Britain could be under investigation for electoral offences. The person who is supposed to supervise probes into political wrongdoing could herself be implicated in the biggest donation concealment in recent memory. That alone raises fundamental questions about impartiality and public confidence. And here's a detail that should make anyone uneasy: Steve Reed, who, according to the emails, was involved in discussions about how to handle the donations, now holds responsibility for electoral integrity and constitutional reform. The man accused of helping to obscure donations is now in charge of the very rules that govern donation transparency. It's like putting the architect of a security breach in charge of writing the new security standards. The fox, it appears, isn't merely guarding the henhouse, he's designing it. But there's an even broader problem. This case feeds into a worrying perception of a two-tier justice system. Ordinary citizens fined or prosecuted for relatively small compliance lapses, while senior political figures allegedly orchestrate long-running concealments involving hundreds of thousands of pounds and emerge with a slap-on-the-wrist penalty. The Electoral Commission said its investigation at the time was thorough and that sanctions were appropriate, but that was before Shabana's email became public and before the suggestion of coordinated, deliberate concealment involving future ministers. This is more than another scandal in a row. Partygate was about hypocrisy and breaking pandemic rules. This looks like systematic evasion of electoral law and potential corruption at the core of government, implicating the Home Secretary, the minister who now oversees electoral law, and the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff. These are not peripheral figures, they are the operational leadership of the Labour government. That puts Shabana Mahmood in an almost impossible position. As Home Secretary, she has oversight of the Metropolitan Police, MI5, the National Crime Agency, and every law enforcement body across the UK. How can she credibly supervise inquiries into political corruption if there are credible claims she may have helped conceal political donations? How can she oversee the enforcement of electoral rules while leaked documents suggest she breached them herself? The sequence of events, when laid out, is startling. Labour Together formed in 2015 to counter Corbyn. Big donations begin flowing in 2016, reporting to the Electoral Commission stops in 2017. By 2018, Mahmood and Reid are allegedly discussing how to keep donations away from regulators. 2019 sees Corbyn defeated. In 2020, Starmer becomes leader and the donations are suddenly declared. 2021, Shabana confirms deliberate intent in writing. By 2024, the key players are running the country. They believed their trail was buried in private emails and legal notes. They miscalculated. Morgan Mwini, the operative named as running Labour Together, is not some peripheral aide, he's a strategic linchpin for Starmer, a trusted advisor and campaign brain. If he was operating an off-the-books fund with the knowledge of Mahmood and the complicity of Reid, then these allegations sink into the organizational DNA of the current administration. It's the political equivalent of discovering the president's chief of staff ran a secret financing scheme with the attorney general's knowledge. In a functioning democracy, such revelations would trigger immediate accountability. Heads would roll, independent inquiries would be launched. But the real fear for voters is deeper. If these actors were prepared to lie, conceal, and break rules to win power, what lengths will they go to now that they hold it? If they flouted the law to unseat Jeremy Corbyn, what might they do to maintain their hold on office? This government came to power promising transparency and a new era after the scandals of the previous administration. They pledged integrity after years of conservative sleaze. Yet these leaked messages suggest they were engaged in behind-the-scenes maneuvers that amount to electoral concealment before they even sat in power. The leaked emails raise urgent questions that deserve immediate, independent answers. Which other donations were hidden? What other secret conversations took place? What other corners of law were bent or broken in the run-up to their victory? Gerald Shabana's note may only be the first breadcrumb. If a senior party lawyer was comfortable writing this down, How many conversations never touched email and instead happened in private meetings, calls, or encrypted chats? So here's the challenge to every voter: if senior figures systematically lied about donations, helped orchestrate cover-ups involving regulators, and spent years concealing money from public oversight, why should we accept anything they say about integrity now? When Shabana Mahmood speaks about law and order, recall these allegations about electoral law. When Steve Reed talks about democratic safeguards, remember the claims he helped hide donations from scrutiny. When Keir Starmer promises transparency, remember that a close aide allegedly ran a secret funding operation that others helped hide. The public deserve better. We should expect leaders who follow the laws they write for everyone else. We deserve truth from politicians who campaign on honesty. We deserve accountability, not evasions or claims of human error when private messages point to deliberate strategy. If you think Shabana Mahmood should step aside as Home Secretary, leave a comment below. If you want the Metropolitan Police to open a full investigation, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more in-depth political commentary, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of power and politics. Thanks for watching.